Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us for our first ever Ohs Marketing Team information seminar. Today, we're going to be talking about what everyone seems to be talking about, how to win as a buyer in an incredible seller's market. You probably, if you haven't been paying attention, I'd be surprised. You probably are speaking about just what's going on in the real estate market all across the country, frankly, but we're going to focus in a little bit on our area of Oceanside, Parksville, Qualicum, Nanaimo areas on the east coast of Vancouver Island here. And what we're going to talk about is just the unprecedented market we're experiencing. We have, of course, I'm going to talk about historical inventories. Jennifer Galloway is going to talk about subjects, whether they should be included, if they are included, how you should structure them. Theresa Antolick is going to talk about competing offers and multiple offers, and that's a really common thread in the marketplace today, as many of you are aware. Harvey is going to talk about something that up until a year ago, or maybe 2 years ago, was very uncommon and fairly uncomfortable. Buying sight unseen, which is a common practice today. And he's going to talk about all those tips and tricks. And then at the very end, I'm going to talk a little bit about, should you wait? We're getting a lot of questions from buyers right now. Well, we know it's crazy right now. We know it's super busy. We know there's a lot of competing offers. Maybe I'll just wait till it settles down. So we're going to look into our crystal ball and see if that's something you should be thinking about doing as well. So we're hoping through all these sort of tips and tricks, we can give you just basically a little bit of ammunition, I think, to succeed out there and try and get the home you're looking out for. So I'm going to start talking a little bit about our unprecedented low inventory. And first off, as a background to that, I want to talk a little bit about what happened last year. So the market was actually slowing a little bit, still very vibrant. And then the pandemic hit, and it was almost like you could hear the silence. It was deafening. It was just sort of a thud in the market. And of course, we're all at home. We're wondering what's going to happen. And there was a lot of doom and gloom, gloom predictions for the economy in general, but certainly for real estate. If you look at pundits like the head of CMHC was predicting 18% declines in prices on homes and significant declines in terms of sales volume. And who could blame them? It didn't look very good for the real estate market. But there is one company and one CEO in general, our CEO at Royal LePage, Phil Soper, and his fabulous team. They always do a home price survey or index that they send out to the media. And they're kind of the go-to people for numbers on real estate in Canada. Royal LePage is a real leader in that way. And way against the grain, they were predicting a very robust recovery once we came out of lockdown. And honestly, I read it, I heard the projections they were making, and I thought, oh, really? Wow, that'd be great, but we'll see if it happens. Well, not only did it happen, it exceeded their projections. And as many of you know, you're waiting for a house, you're ready to buy, you're pre-qualified, or you don't need financing, and you're frustrated as buyers because the inventory is ridiculously low. This graph shows us we are at a 10-year low for inventory, but I actually wanted to go back 30 years, but our new system doesn't allow us to do so. If you went back 30 years, we'd still be the lowest inventory we've ever had right now today. And it's very interesting. My career spans 30 years, and I can tell you this is the lowest inventory. We can't build an inventory. Everything we list sells. We're dealing with multiple offers. We're dealing with quick sales. Very, very few homes aren't selling today. So when you're talking about why these things are happening, I really feel a big part of it is just the buyer demand in general. And then also the interest rates are playing a major factor. The Bank of Canada is definitely targeting to keep interest rates super low. What resulted in that is the buyers came to the table. So the buyers are now saying, my money goes further. You can see by this graph up here, from June on, we were ahead year over year of very good years in the most previous years. even looking at December was a record-setting year across this country. So when you add it up, it's not just the east coast of Vancouver Island, but the next graph is going to show us that the numbers in December year over year are astounding. If you look at Toronto, it was 63.2% more sales this December than the past December. Vancouver, 54.3, Victoria, 54.4. Victoria is sort of accounting for the whole island. So as much as we like to think here in Oceanside, Parksville, Qualicum, that we're the only desirable place, and we are, let's face it, the best place in Canada for climate and for lifestyle, recreation, this is a countrywide phenomenon. And even the markets in Alberta, if you take a look at Edmonton and Calgary, really struggled in the last few years. Their economy's been tough. Even they've rebounded and had, record Decembers and record years leading up to in comparison. And again, it's being driven by all these forces: the pent-up demand, the lack of inventory, and certainly the interest rates. I think the next slide, talks a bit about the historic rates. We talked about them before. But with a benchmark rate of 0.25% and a 5-year mortgage, I've heard as low as 1.49. I even think I heard of one at 1.39. That's pretty tempting to get into the market. So affordability, even though we're seeing prices increase, affordability is also increasing. And if you're going to have debt, I've always believed mortgage debt, if there is any good debt, it's certainly the best debt to have. And it's a way to build sort of your tax-free wealth going forward. So that's what's happening. That's why we've got this lack of homes. That's why you're all fighting to get that one home that might be yours, except you have to wade through and get through about 10 people to get it or more. So anyways, that's where we're at with the historic inventory. Jennifer's going to now talk about subjects and how to structure a deal. So knowing your product, and also whether you should have a subject or not, and if you are, what those subjects should look like. So go ahead, Jen.
Perfect. Thanks, Rob. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the process. When we write an offer, we include subjects that favor the buyers generally. So it's important to know what they typically are and how they're normally how they normally go into the contract. But the first thing we need to do is know the product. What are we looking for? What type of property are we looking for? What area are we looking in? So it's really important to be as involved as you can, which is easy with all the technology that's out there right now. We need to be knowledgeable about the areas, and we also need to be aware of what some of the common missteps or problems or benefits are of certain areas. But the number one thing that we need to do is get your financing in order. It is the most important thing you can do when you're purchasing a property. So please go talk to your lender, talk to your mortgage broker. It's really important to sit down and actually get a pre-approval done. It's one thing to go onto an app and kind of run the numbers yourself, but it's another thing to go in and really have them go through everything with you and know what your options are. When you've got that pre-approval, ask your lender to write you a letter, because we're going to be competing in multiple offers in the marketplace right now. And it's not easy if you do need to borrow or if you've got a mortgage in place, because we're seeing so many offers that do not require financing. So really being able to establish that you are proactive, you've got your ducks in a row, you've talked to the lender has written a letter stating that yes, you've been there, yes, you've got your pre-approval and you can afford this property, is something that can really go a long way in a multiple offer situation to really firming up your offer. So getting your financing in order allows us to know your budget and search within it. It's difficult right now when properties are generally going over list price. So it's important to really keep our budget nice and tight and know that the properties we're looking at are going to fit for your life and your lifestyle. The thing that we sometimes forget about when we're talking about money is deposit. So making sure that we've got that money set aside for the deposit, that's not money that you get from your mortgage. It's money that you have access to beforehand. So generally within 48 hours, or even sometimes within acceptance of the offer. And deposits are getting larger and larger as the market goes further and further up. So it's really important to make sure that you've got that money. Maybe it's 5, 10, 20, 50,000, depending on the property that we're looking at, and make sure that you've got that available to you. The other thing we like to do is review contracts prior to writing one. If it's been a little while since you have bought or sold a property, contracts can look a little bit different. So we want to look at everything in there, make sure that you're totally comfortable with it. There is some common language in there, and it also kind of keys out some additional fees like appraisals or property transfer tax, and gets us having those conversations so that everything runs really smoothly when the time does come. Another thing that we like to do is review common charges on title. So ideally, if we've got the title to the property that you're looking at, that's great. But if you haven't seen a title in a little while, they can be many different lengths depending on the property. If it's a strata property, they can be a few pages long. So we like to look at common charges on title and just be familiar with things that might come up during the offer process. So there might be a building scheme registered on title, and then that gets you thinking, well, I need a boat. So I need someplace that I can park my boat. So reviewing title, just being really familiar with what's on there and what it allows you to do with your property is also another important step in the process. A property disclosure statement is something that's filled out by the sellers when they're listing their home to the best of their knowledge. So we like to have a look at this and make sure there isn't any problem areas with the property, such as maybe a leak in the crawl space. If there's a strata on there, it will let us know if there's any restrictions with the strata, as well as any leases on the property. Maybe they're leasing a propane tank, or they've got an agreement with a alarm company sometimes. So it's important to understand what you're taking on when you take on the property as well. One of the most common subjects, other than financing, of course, is inspection. So this is a tough one for people to really get around, get their heads around not having an inspection, because it does bring such a level of comfort to buyers, particularly. Sellers are take it or leave it, I guess. But so many buyers don't want to purchase a property without inspection, and I get it. And we always recommend an inspection. It's something that you need to be aware of. That being said, when you're in a multiple offer situation and we're seeing so many properties have 5 or 6 offers on them, there's usually a few in there that do not have an inspection. So how do you get around that? Well, you don't have to. If you want an inspection, we can arrange one. We can have an inspection done before you put in the offer. It does mean that you're paying for the inspection before you've written the offer and have the offer accepted, but it gives you the peace of mind to go ahead and write the offer. And it also shows the sellers that you're very excited about the property, that you're willing to already spend the money on it. So that's obviously the best case scenario, is to get in and get the inspection done. Maybe we can write in and already have an inspection pre-booked, so that if the offer gets accepted, the inspection happens really quickly. Maybe you're friends with a retired inspector. That'd be great. They can come to the showing with you and check out the major systems and have those conversations with you. It's all about what your comfort level is and making sure that you understand what it means to you in the offer process. Which kind of brings us to the big one, which is subject-free offers. We're seeing them. We're seeing a lot of them. It's really about your comfort level, and it's about what you're able to do. If you need a mortgage and you're pre-approved, but you're a first-time buyer and you are nervous, you're going to want to put in a financing clause, and we recommend that you put it in. So it's really about what your comfort level is. Maybe you are never going to be comfortable with a subject-free offer. That's okay too. We can play with things to make it work for you and your situation. What you need to think about as a buyer in this market is, Are you comfortable missing out on a property, maybe because you haven't done the research or you haven't done your due diligence, or because you haven't got it set up properly with your buyer's agent? We want to make sure that you've got it set up so that every step of the way you feel comfortable and you feel really in control of the situation. Getting familiar with the common subjects and language enables you to act with the strength, the knowledge, and the confidence that you will need to be successful in this difficult market. So I'm going to pass it over to Theresa now, who's going to talk about multiple offer situations. And she's having a bit of technical difficulties, so she is here. Rob, you're muted.
Sorry, this is our first time. Can you tell, folks? I'm going to give Theresa my seat. She's having technical difficulties with her computer. So here's Theresa.
Thank you, Rob. It's the times that we live in these days with technology. It's not always perfect. But anyways, we'll do our best. I'm going to speak about competing and multiple offer situation, which is really what we're into right now because of the market the way it is, and we have to adjust to the current market. Some of the key points that you need to consider, and also what's involved in this market. And also getting past any preconceived notions that you have on what it takes to be successful in making your offer in this particular market. First of all, be prepared prior to viewing, as Jennifer indicated to you. Check off as many of the due diligence items as possible prior to submitting your offer, as timing is of the essence. You want to have minimal or no conditions if possible. Timing is typically short, so decisions have to be made quickly. Your buyer's agent should also have open communication with the listing agent. That is very, very important. There's certain points that you have to know beforehand when you're putting an offer in this kind of market. And that's basically your agent should know beforehand what is the time and date of offers to be presented. What are the closing dates preferred, and how flexible are you in making that kind of offer? Because sometimes you have to get a very clear picture of what the circumstances of the seller are. They may want to rent back, so they have time to also look for a property. So all kinds of different circumstances that you have to be aware before you put in the offer. Any details that can make your offer attractive is going to be to your benefit. The other really good suggestion is how you can connect with the seller emotionally. And that could be writing a letter to them indicating how you love the property, and also how the different amenities in the area would be conducive to your family. It could be a park in the area, could be schools for the kids, anything that would make them understand you as a buyer as well, and how you would appreciate their home and how that would fit with their with your lifestyle, and also how you would continue to care for their home. I can't stress this enough. Make it as clean as possible with fewer terms and conditions to make it as attractive as possible. Make your best offer, as you probably will not get a second chance at this because you are in a multiple offer situation. And remember, the seller is under no obligation to consider, to respond, or counter your offer. And also, a full price offer does not guarantee your purchase of the property, because other offers are going to be probably above the asking price with no conditions. Deposits, make them larger. Again, that's going to make it more attractive to the seller. The other item that I want to talk about that you might have heard is a bully offer. What is a bully offer? In simple terms, it's an offer to purchase submitted ahead of the specified offer presentation time and date. These offers are predatory And by design, they are intended to request the seller to make a decision before other buyers can submit their offers. Bully offers are typically strong financially and very few or no conditions with a large deposit. The idea here is to make your offer so that the seller cannot refuse it. Remember, the decision about how offers will be presented and dealt with are made by the seller, not by the listing agent. If your offer is unsuccessful, you may choose to make a backup offer, which, if accepted, would come into effect as soon as the first offer collapsed for any reason. Ongoing and open communication will ensure that you will feel that you're treated fairly and honestly, whether successful or not. I'm now going to turn this over to Bradley, who's going to talk about virtual showings. Go ahead, Brad.
Thank you, Theresa. So when you get into busy markets like these, you hear a lot more about people buying sight unseen, which sounds scary, but when you break it into more manageable pieces, it's a lot less daunting. So today I'm going to talk to you about the process and how to navigate your way through it. The three main things that we want to focus on, and this is a big one, is the planning stage, sort of your prep work, all the technology that you can use, and what the showings are actually like. So let's dive into the prep work. Something that really ensures you're going to be happy with the home is knowing what's important to you. You really have to narrow down what you want. This is no different than buying in a regular market. It's not always about what's inside the house, but it's also good to think about what's around the house. So for example, do you need to be close to a school? What's the proximity to the ferries like? Or how far away is it from any hobbies that you might have? Also seriously consider what you're willing to sacrifice on and what's a non-negotiable. Fine-tuning any of these details is going to be really important in helping you and your agent narrow in on any specific areas. Technology is going to be, of course, huge in this situation. And we're very lucky to have so much technology that can make this whole process a lot easier. And this is probably why you hear about so many people buying sight unseen. One of the biggest tools that we have at our disposal is Google Maps. And Google Maps Street View allows you to walk up and down the neighborhoods as if you were there in real time, checking out if there's any sidewalks to walk on, are there any street lights in that neighborhood. You might even be able to check out your new neighbors. Another really cool tool that we have is the Matterport 3D Tour. Not all listings have them, but when we do, it really allows you to bring those floor plans to life. Matterport lets you take a virtual walk through the home as if you were there in real time. And you're able to zoom in on any significant details like appliances or baseboards, I mean, virtually anything. FaceTime, Zoom, and WhatsApp also all play a huge role in virtual tours. Now, talking about virtual tours, this is where Zoom, FaceTime, and WhatsApp play that big role. These are all the programs that are commonly used to do a real-time walkthrough. Although they might not be quite as good as being there in person, we can still get a really good sense of what the home is like. And something that I always ask my clients to do before the showing is come up with a list of questions that they can ask while we're walking through the home, such as like how much natural light is in a home, does that backyard get a lot of sun? Of course, we'll always try and give you as much information as we possibly can while we're in the home, but every question that you ask just helps to give you that much more confidence. Another good idea is for that buying agent to send a video highlighting any of the important areas, such as the condition of the appliances, just anything that might help you later on to be able to review and look back on those things. Anything that might help you get a better sense of the home. And every one of these little details that we do can just really help to avoid any surprises and ensure that at the end of this whole process, you're really happy with the purchase that you've made. So now I'm going to pass it back over to Rob, and he's going to tell you if you should be waiting until the springtime.
That's a big question. Thanks, Brad. question we get daily. Is this going to last? Should we wait? Should we wait this market out? We've sold. You're maybe afraid that the market's going to pass you by, but you're also thinking this can't last forever. And I'm here to tell you, no, it probably can't last forever. No market ever has. That being said, our crystal ball is a little murky, and we didn't predict the run we're currently in either. Royal LePage and Phil Soper did, but we didn't. So the reality is we really feel that the economy is going to rebound, and that's not going to deter people from wanting to buy a home. Also, CMHC and all the powers that be, including the Bank of Canada, are going to want to stimulate this economy. The way they stimulate economies, of course, is they keep interest rates low. And that's really the driver for this demand we're seeing. That's what's made it affordable as a move-up market. That's what's made it affordable for first-time buyers. That's what's made it so darn attractive for the move-down people as well. They're selling for higher numbers. They're moving down in the market because it's a great time to sell. So this market is good for a lot of people. And the prediction really is about a 5.5% increase by the end of this year. That's what all the real pundits that we count on are calling for at this point. I think the next slide shows that, Britt. 5.5% increase is what they're expecting by the end of 2021. And it's got a lot to do with demographics. It's got a lot to do with interest rates. And in general, it's just the move into hard assets, not keeping your money in cash, which frankly, in an inflationary scenario, is going to be worth less. And so we're seeing, that gets a little economic speak, but that's why we're seeing the push for and demand for housing. It's become more affordable simply just because of interest rates, not prices. So we hope you enjoyed this first attempt of ours to do something like this. A little rough around the edges, we understand. We'll get better at it. We're going to plan to do something like this around once a month if there's something really important to say. We hope you got something out of it. We can get into much more depth. So do feel free to reach out to us, fire an email. You don't have to be our client. And if you have a client, if you have a realtor already, we fully respect that. But if you just want an independent opinion on something that's going on in the market or your own personal situation, we're happy to give that information as well. And thanks again, and thanks to the panel, to the team. Good job, you guys, and have a great night, everyone.
Hi, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.